Hi everyone, this is Heather. Thank you so much for joining me. Today I've got a card tutorial and we're going to be making this fun little card, the little mermaid under a starry sky, and she's reaching up waving out of the waves. And today I'm using some stamps from a newer stamp company. It's called Hello Sweetums. And they have the most adorable line of stamps. They are based out of Australia, but you can pick their stamps up from a couple of online stores if you live in the US. Simon Says Stamp carries them, and also Butterfly Reflections Ink. So this is the Seize the Day stamp set that I'm going to be using today. There's also a coordinating die set, and I'm also using their Stargazer stencil as well. So before we get into the tutorial, I wanted to show you a couple of other cards that I made with this stamp set. So this card was inspired by The Little Mermaid, one of my favorite Disney movies, and in the Under the Sea scene, Ariel kind of has all the little fish and things sort of swimming around her. So I thought that would be really fun to kind of recreate. So I just kind of have this wreath going around the Little Mermaid with the little sea creatures and shells and stuff floating around her. And I also made this card. I wanted it to look like you were looking out of the porthole of a submarine. I'm a big Beatles fan, so of course I had to make my submarine yellow. Just used some circle dies to cut out my portal, and then put some little brads around it and emboss my sentiment. And then when you open it up, there's a little scene inside with a little mermaid and all the little sea creatures. I just absolutely love this set. I think it is so cute. So for this card, for the card base, I just have a piece of blue cardstock, 8.5 by 11, cut, scored, and folded in half. I have some pretty yellow textured paper, and this has been cut to 5 by 3 3/4. I have a piece of Bristol smooth cardstock that's been cut to 4 3/4 by 3.5. I have another little extra piece of the Bristol for my stamping, and then I have a piece of Vellum that's been cut to 3.5 by 2.5. So today I'm going to be using Arteza Brush Pens. Sorry for my overhead lighting. And we're going to be using them as watercolors. So I highly recommend using Bristol smooth paper for this technique. You could also use watercolor paper, but I like that this is so smooth. You don't have that bumpy texture when you stamp on it. Most regular cardstocks will not allow the water to kind of move the color around. So be sure to try this with the Bristol smooth. So I'm going to start off doing my background. I've grabbed a scratch piece of paper and my Bristol Smooth cardstock, and unfortunately with the Arteza pens, they don't have numbers or color names. This is kind of one of the medium to darker blue colors. And all I'm going to do is just take the edge of this brush tip and just go back and forth across my Bristol Smooth paper. And it looks really messy at first, but it won't for very long. So, and just kind of add some more streaks in the middle. So just the edge of the brush back and forth. Now I'm going to take a paintbrush. This is just a number 8 paintbrush. I'm going to dip it in some water, and I'm just going to do kind of the same motion that I just did. And I'm just going to take the edge of that brush and just go back and forth over the marker, and it gives it that really pretty watercolor wash look. So depending on the look that you want, you can go over it a lot with the water. You could leave more of your streaks. Just depends on the look that you're going for. So here's my finished background. It is still a little bit wet, so I'm going to set it aside to dry. You could also use your heat tool on low to go ahead and dry it faster. Now I'm stamping out my images. I've stamped out the cute little waving mermaid, and then I'm going to stamp out 2 of the little schools of fish. And I am using black StazOn ink because I'm going to be using a water-based product and I don't want my ink to smear. So now I'm ready to color my images, and I've moved to a smaller paintbrush. This is a number 3. I'm going to be taking the yellow marker, and I'm going to be coloring in her bikini top just on the bottom and the little starfish. her little headband and the back body of a couple of the little fish. So 2 of the little fish in one school and 2 of the little fish in another school. And now with my paintbrush, I'm just going to move that color around, and it gives you that nice kind of soft watercolor look. I'm just going to move it around on the fish, and it really softens up and blends out that color. If you want to go back in and add a little bit more, you can kind of build that up. I wouldn't work your paper too much so that the water doesn't cause it to pill. I'm going to clean off my brush. I'm going to move on to a green. This is kind of an army green. And I'm going to be doing her tail. And I'm just going to color in the bottom part of her tail. And just the pieces closest to her body. And then do the same thing that I did with the yellow with the fish. I've cleaned my paintbrush off in the water. And I'm just going to blend that color out. I think on this green you can really see how nicely that blends that out. Gonna blend out my fish. I'm gonna go back in with the green and add just a little bit more to the bottom of her tail. And now moving on to her skin tone, I'm kind of taking this pale peach color. I'm just gonna fill in her face and her arms and her belly, leaving it darker where I want more color. Again, I'm gonna go in, make sure my brush is clean, and just blend that color out. And go back in and add just a little bit more for some shadow. And now with this kind of rosy color, just wanted to give her some cute little cheeks. Take my brush and just kind of soften that up a little bit. And now moving on to her hair, I have this sort of reddish brown. And again, I'm just going to put it in the areas where I want it to be a little bit darker. And again, take my wet paintbrush and blend that color out. So this is just really quick, easy, fast, and simple watercoloring. And I really love how this Arteza brushes work on this Bristol Smooth cardstock. So now I'm ready to die cut my images out. So just using some repositionable tape, I'm going to place the dies over my stamped images and tape those in place, and I will be running the fish through twice. So now for my wave piece, I have just a little wave die, and this is from Stampin' Up. And I'm going to measure up about 1 3/4 inches and make just a little bit of a tick mark on the side of my vellum. And then I'm going to tape this die in place. And I'm going to run it through my die cut machine, and then I'm going to line it up again with this side and run it through one more time. So I've die cut out my images and my vellum, and I also wanted to say if you don't happen to have a wave die, you could also use just some scalloped edge scissors to make your waves as well. So now I'm ready to start stenciling my stars. I brought my scratch piece of paper over. I'm just going to kind of lay my vellum over. And I'm just going to kind of lay the stars down on my piece, just kind of lining it up where I would like them to be. I'm going to turn this over and just take another piece of repositionable tape and just tape that paper to the back of my stencil, and I can go ahead and move my vellum. And now I'm taking a couple of Post-it notes just to kind of cover up so that I don't accidentally stencil any area that I don't want stenciled. So next, using So Saffron ink from Stampin' Up and a blender brush, I'm just going to pick up a little bit of that color and just swirl it around over top of the opening on the stencil and add that pretty yellow to my background. And now that I have all those sections stenciled in, I'm going to lift up my stencil, check and make sure that that looks nice, and it does. So I'm going to go ahead and remove my stencil and set it off to the side. So using my black StazOn, I've stamped the Make Waves words in the upper right hand corner. And I'm going to take my vellum and I'm going to lay it down on my front panel. I'm going to kind of slip my mermaid in here and just sort of figure out where I would like her to be. I'm going to move that out of the way. I'm just going to take my pencil and make a little tick mark there just so that I know where to place her. I'm going to use some regular tape runner and just apply her to the front of my card. And now I've also applied tape runner to the back of my little schools of fish. And place one down and the other down. And now I'm ready to adhere my vellum. And if you use just a regular tape runner or double-sided tape, it ends up showing through the back. So one of my favorite things to use with vellum is this Xyron sticker maker machine. It works really well for anything that's small or detailed that you want to get a lot of adhesive on the back. And I also really love it for vellum. So I'm just going to, there's a little arrow there. I'm just going to place my vellum in where it says insert item. Go around to the back and grab the tab where it says pull and tear. And I'm just going to pull that through. It's going to be a little bit hard to see because it's kind of clear on clear. But once your piece of paper has cleared the edge, there's a little cutting piece up there. You're just going to pull up and tear that off. So I had a little bit of trouble getting that to tear right, but everything's still intact. So you just kind of want to rub over top and then peel this top piece away, and it is going to be sticky, and just throw that away. And again, I know it's kind of hard to see, but I'm going to carefully lift my vellum up, and the entire back of the piece is now coated in adhesive. Now I'm going to line this up with the bottom and edges of my card base and just kind of smooth that down. Now using my Uniball Signo white gel pen, I want to add a few little details. So I'm just going to add some kind of shine lines to some of the stars. I'm going to add just a little dot to each of her cheeks, a little bit at the top of her bathing suit top, and the star that's in her hair. And I really want to draw attention to the curve of the wave of the vellum. So I'm just going to take my gel pen and just follow along and make some little like scallops and some little V's. So I've just kind of continued along the top here. And then on top of the vellum, I'm just going to make some like little kind of W's and some little extra waves just to add some more texture to the card. So I hope that shows up on camera. In person, that adds just like a really nice texture to the waves on the vellum. And now I'm ready to apply my piece to my yellow, and I'm using quite a bit of adhesive because this panel's got a little bit of a warp to it just because we added so much water. I'm just going to center that on my yellow piece. And now I'm going to adhere this to my card base. And here's our finished card. I hope you enjoyed learning about how to do a quick and easy water technique with the Arteza Brush Pens, and that you enjoyed taking a look at the adorable stamps from Hello Sweetums. I will link to their website down below and also link to the 2 US shops where you can pick them up. And I hope that you enjoyed this card tutorial. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to check out my channel and consider subscribing. And I hope you have a really fantastic day. This is Heather. Bye.